Wintry in the west, quiet in the east, rain across the south, and some leftover winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories in and around the Great Lakes. As we get the Sunday morning Joe and Joe weather show underway, brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. They got mulch, they got salt, they got sand, they've got stuff you need for the winter time, and pretty soon they have plenty of stuff that you'll need for the spring to make sure that your home on the outside and even on the inside is in tip-top shape. 631-756-1125. Nowhere can you find better prices. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com. Joe.
Aye. Heard a little feedback.
Hello there.
Heard a little feedback audio there, but hang on one second. I will bring you to the screen. So for those of you who don't know, because you really, and that's pretty much all of you, I had a power outage here this morning at 9:30. I don't know, some critter must have chewed through a power line or something, because it only affected 48 homes. So anyway, came back at 10:53. So we were able to just get the show on in time. And
under the wire, so to speak. Yes,
and let everybody know ahead of time that there will be no show tomorrow night. Joe's got a library talk where?
That's a good question. I could tell you in a moment, but the library talk is entitled, "And Now Here's the Forecast." And actually, what I ought to do is I ought to put the I'll send you the link and you can put it up on the chat board. It's about, basically what it was like to do, looking at the history of weather forecasts, first in the newspapers, then on radio, and then on television. And I actually have, in fact, maybe I could do it before the show is over today. I could show it here on the Joe and Joe show. I dug up, Joe, a little brief history of the Johnny Carson / Dr. Frank Field feud that went on during the 1960s, including a night, and I remember this very clearly. I went to, it was in 1968, and I went to the Mayor's Trophy game, which was when it was an exhibition game between the Mets and the Yankees for charity at Shea Stadium. Came home, and it was like 11 o'clock at night. Wanted to watch Frank Field on Channel 4. And that night, while he was doing the weather, Johnny Carson came on the set. And while Frank Field was trying to do the weather straight, Carson was doing all sorts of funny things, including taking Frank Field's pointer and breaking it over his knee and handing it back to Frank Field. And I'm saying, look, it's Johnny Carson. And I only saw that once, but then in doing a little bit of research, I dug up this video and I said, there it is. I remember that. I remember. So maybe before the show is over, I'll show that to everybody here at on our Joe and Joe show.
Well,
Very funny.
We got a ton of weather to talk about. I mean,
yeah.
You sure we'll be able to squeeze it in?
Yes, indeed. It's hard to. There's not much to talk about, folks. No question about that.
I mean, unless you want to go through a bunch of dire records that are going to be set here. Philadelphia, I was reading, has not. They're going to set a record for the most consecutive above normal days in the winter. I think today is the day. So if I think it's 36, and it would be today. So it will. Take out a record that actually goes back to I think it was one in the early 1940s, and then again sometime in like in the 19 noughts. So these are two records that happened that were set a long time ago, and they are also on pace. I believe they haven't had measurable snowfall either, but it's a little different in Philadelphia because they actually have a snowless winter. okay, on their record. So if this turns out to be a snowless winter in Philadelphia, the best they could do is tie the record. They can't break it.
By the way, the library tomorrow night I'm giving is Pearl River. So I'm doing it for the Pearl River Library tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. And yeah, today is also the day. It was also a Sunday back in 1973 when New York City finally ended its streak of no measurable snow. They had 1.8 inches of snow on this day in 1973. And I think I may have mentioned that while New York only picked up 1.8 inches, places north and west got considerably more. If I were living up here back in 1973, about a foot of snow fell with that particular storm. It was a very heavy, wet type of snow. So that broke but there's nothing like that today on the maps. I mean, there's no sign of any kind of snow, either for me or for New York or for Long Island. And that's the way it looks like it's going to go for at least the next couple of weeks. I really don't see any kind of change and any kind of hope, if you will, and the only thing that's going to change are the temperatures next weekend for a brief time, for maybe a couple of days, for about 48 hours, is going to turn sharply colder. But that's about all. No snow, but at least more winter-like in terms of temperatures in about a week or so.
Right. So the pattern, we had the fire hose pattern for the end of December and for a good chunk of the month of January. Now the pattern's changed into something that for snow lovers and winter weather lovers is equally hideous. You have a southern storm track, which is fine, but you've got no amplitude. The flow is just this sort of gentle west to east flow. Well, it's not quite west to east. You do have a northern part of the jet that's in there, but the little short waves that are embedded in these flows are all weak. Nothing's phasing, nothing is cutting off. You can't even get one short wave, a decent short wave trough to move along in the flow the way it is to produce some precipitation. It's really, I don't see anything. I don't see anything beyond that. Trough may want to go back in the west again in about 2 weeks, which seems to be what the maps want to do every day at the end of the forecast period. Doesn't seem to have been making too much progress in that. There's no blocking, nothing. There is nothing. Zero.
Nothing. Yep.
So
and you think about the fact that and you're absolutely right, by the way, all of these short waves, they look rather healthy in the southwestern states, but as they're coming eastward, they just kind of stretch and flatten out.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really. I mean, it would be great. I mean, like next Friday and Saturday, the positioning of a cold dome of high pressure is in the perfect spot if you want a snowstorm. All you need is some kind of a system that is rolling up along the eastern seaboard. It doesn't have to be very strong because the high itself is going to be so strong that it will create a significant snowfall with even the littlest of warm air advection shots. But there's nothing. There's nothing, as you said, Joe. Everything just rolls along to the east, flattens out, stretches out, and that's that. So
yeah. Now everything is just too suppressed.
Yep.
And of course, you're right. You'll get that cold shot of air that'll come in, and then it'll pull out, and then you'll have probably a decent system coming out. It'll warm up and rain, and you won't see a flake or an ice pellet. That'll be the next slap in the face that the snow lovers will endure. So anyhow, we could carry this on forever and ever. We sort of get the point here. If I just don't see anything. And as far as what's going on today, I mean, we do have a little bit of weather. Well, there's weather everywhere, obviously. But let's take a look at the watches and warnings. And while I'm setting that up, hello to everybody on the chat board. Welcome on this Sunday morning. Glad you're all here. It's better that we do the show now and not tonight when there's football on, because it will mean that our audience will be just a teensy bit smaller. Although the NFL does fear us, fear the Joe and Joe weather show, that will be stealing their audience. But here we go with the watches and warnings, and just as the show started, I guess they must have taken down those winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings that were up for the lower lakes. A couple of counties in upstate New York under winter weather advisories. Half of northern Maine is under winter weather advisory. We have a few winter storm warnings in parts of Wyoming and northwestern Colorado, southeastern Idaho, western Wyoming, and also winter weather advisories in parts of southern Utah, crossing over into Nevada and into the Sierra Nevadas in southern California. The light blue is wind chill advisories, I believe, and they cover the plains and back up into the northern Rockies. Quiet in the east, and we've got flood watches up from southeast Texas across Louisiana as rain is moving across the southern states, and that's one of those southern systems that's moving eastward. Clouds are rolling in the northeast, Joe. We've got this weak weather front that's coming through. I mean, I threw in the chance that there could be a scattered rain shower tonight or
Yes.
late today and tonight, but I did nothing beyond. It really does look like it's one of these situations where the northern part's going to go one way and the southern part's going to stay to the south, and suddenly in between there's nothing going on. And I think that's how it's going to play tonight.
I agree with you. I mentioned a shower late today, early tonight here in the Hudson Valley area, but that moves out, and then we go into a somewhat chillier air mass or during the first part of this upcoming week, and then a really cold one, accompanied by some gusty winds, I think, too, for Friday into the start of the weekend.
And beyond that, you could see there's energy in the Pacific Northwest, and it's nothing really overly organized. There's a lack of major storms anywhere. I mean, in the United States and in the nearby coastal waters on either side, it's very, very tame, I guess is probably the correct, a good word to use here with regards to the weather pattern. Here's the radar, which actually is fairly busy right now. You got some precipitation moving through upstate New York. Rain with the snow, where we have the advisories in the northeast counties. You've got it all extending up into Maine. Some of this is reaching the ground, some of it isn't. Usually when you look at this radar, this particular view, the precip that's in that shows up in the blue, most of the time is precip that is not reaching the ground. The green areas are where it is reaching the ground, and there's some showers in western PA. You've got some rain in Virginia, south into West Virginia, down into eastern Kentucky, Tennessee. It's just northwest of me, Joe. It's just raining probably up the road about 15, 20 miles near the North Carolina County Georgia line. But that's all sliding northeastward. And you can see there's some heavier downpours across southern Louisiana, southeast Texas, seeing some bands of rain. I just wonder what SPC, I didn't even take a look to see what SPC's got in the cards today. They've got a marginal risk for southeast Texas and down to the coastal bend, about halfway down, not quite to Corpus Christi, eastward into the southern half of Louisiana, southernmost Alabama and Mississippi, and into the western part of the Florida Panhandle. No severe is forecast beyond that.
Now, you've had a chance, Joe, to look at the various model guidance this morning, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a peek of it last night before I went to bed. I just am checking again. The European, I think, as much as everybody respects the European, they've respected it ever since Hurricane Sandy in 2012 or whatever. But I do think that the European is going a wee bit overboard in promoting the cold that's presumably is on its way into our area for the end of the week, into the start of the weekend. I took a look last night and I said, well, this is going to change. There was the 12Z run.
Right.
And now I'm looking at the 0Z run from overnight on thermodynamics. And I'm looking here at a projection for the 2-meter temperatures for next Saturday morning at 7 a.m. If this is right, And if you accept this at face value, and this is why I say this might be a wee bit overboard for my area, for Putnam Valley, they are projecting, the European is projecting a temperature at 7 a.m. next Saturday morning of minus 10 degrees. And for New York City, for New York City, the projected low temperature or minimum temperature at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning of next week, the projected temperature is minus 3 Fahrenheit.
All right. Well, you know what? Since you brought that up, I'm gonna put this on the screen. I'm trying to get the 2 meter temperatures here. And I got that regional. You know, I can look at the super tight map here. So, oh, it wants me to log in. Oh, good God! I don't know why I never logged out. All right, just give me a second here, folks. Now I have to start setting up the map from scratch. That seems a bit, with the absence of any kind of big ocean storm, okay? With the absence of any kind of big ocean storm, it's hard for me to imagine that we would get that cold.
Yeah, well, then at 1 o'clock in the afternoon next Saturday, the projection for New York City is somewhere around. Wait a minute, let me take a look here. Am I looking at the correct? I want to make sure I'm looking at this in the proper. No, this can't be right.
All right, so I'm getting the 2 meter temperatures here myself. So
This can't be. 1 o'clock in the afternoon, New York City is, yeah, okay, that's fine. It looks like it's like 6 degrees next week
all right, hold on. Let's
at,
see.
at 1 o'clock on Saturday or whatever.
All right, so that Saturday would be one. Oh my God, I'm looking here. Okay, so um, Friday, it's got temperatures that are falling through the 20s. Okay, during the day on Friday. So let me bring this
Right.
up on the screen. So let's take a look, and then we could switch over to the GFS. These are maps, by the way, courtesy of Pivotal Weather, and this is the you can get really super tight if you subscribe to it, which I do, and I can show it on the air because I got a commercial license.
And Adam Lowe on the chat board says, Joe, the Euro has us at minus 13 Fahrenheit in Rhode Island for Saturday morning. And then in the 40s and raining Sunday evening.
Well,
not a flake of
snow. Right. What did I say? What did I say before? What did I say before? Now this is weird. Why am I? Where did it go? Okay. So these are 2 meter temperatures. Let me switch to. They got the max min map here. Or do I have to play this game with the 2 meter temperatures? 24-hour min, 24-hour max. So let's go to 24-hour min. All right. So, I'm sorry it's taking me a while to get my head together here, but this is the way, this is what happens when you had 5 minutes to prep a show. So, I have here the Saturday 7 a.m. 2 meter temp. Well, these are the lows for Saturday morning, Joe. -2 at New York City, -4 in Yonkers, -11 in Poughkeepsie, -9 Middletown, -1 in Bridgewater, New Jersey, -0 in Trenton, 0 in Toms River, 1 in Philadelphia, 10 below in Scranton, 21 below in Oneonta, and 17 below in Albany. And that's the Saturday morning max. So let's look at the Sunday just for laughs. Sunday 2 meter temperature. It has -5 in Yonkers, -2 in New York City, -1 in Bridgewater. By the way, all of this is being accomplished with no snow cover. -14 in Waterbury, -13 in Hartford, -13 in Boston. Now, for comparison's sake, let's take a look at the GFS 2 meter temperatures, shall we?
Surely.
Okay. And all right, so let's go to the 2 meter 24-hour max, 24-hour min. And all right, so I'm just waiting for all the maps to load. All right, so that's Friday. At 7 p.m. Friday, it's got New York City at 19, 9 at 1 a.m. Well, Joe, look at this is the GFS now, okay? The GFS New York City 2 for a low. 0 at Yonkers, 0 at Bridgewater, -1 at Allentown, -5 Middletown, -7 Poughkeepsie, Hartford -4, Waterbury -6, Toms River 6 above. Let's go to that was Saturday morning, so let's go to Sunday morning. See, I'm going to say this right now. This as a snow lover would hack me off even more. I mean, this is really like rubbing it in because now if these temperatures verify, you got this. I mean, it's bitter air. It's bitter air that's coming down, and you're doing this with no snow cover whatsoever. Two.
Yeah.
2 on the GFS, 0 at Yonkers, -7, Poughkeepsie, -3, Middletown, Hartford -3, Boston -5. So I guess we could say, at least in general, that the European is probably about 5 to 7 degrees colder than the GFS, but the GFS is still pretty cold.
Right. Well, somebody just wrote on the chat board shades of Valentine's Day 2016. That was the last time, I believe, that New York City got down to zero or below zero. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, oh boy, but considering that it's been so warm for so long, with the month of January probably going to be the warmest on record, or maybe one of the certainly in the top 5. Now you're going to go below 0. And I mean, is anybody even mentioning this, or have we all gotten lulled to sleep over the fact that the pattern is so cold that nobody wants to even bother to look?
I think I said for on my low temperature for next Saturday night, my Facebook post, I had 8 degrees, but that was before I was able to take a good hard look at the European. Now I'm looking at it again, looking at the GFS now. I mean, yeah, this seems to be, waving the red flag that, hey, folks, it's going to get about as cold, even colder this go around than it did right around Christmas. Christmas time 40 days ago.
Well, hey, you said back before the winter started, the big cold dump. Later in January or early February. Well, this may be it.
Well, it's a cold dump. I don't know about if you can say big. I was kind of anticipating that it would spill all the way down, let's say, to the Gulf Coast and cause problems with the orange groves or whatever. But
right.
But this is cold. This is most definitely a very cold shot that's coming in, albeit short too, as it was just mentioned. I mean, by Sunday and Sunday night, it warms up enough so that it just rains, not snows. Too bad.
Yeah, I'm looking here at the daytime max looks like on Saturday is about in the teens. And let's see what it has. Oh, but by Sunday afternoon, Joe, what does it have at New York City? 37. Poughkeepsie, 35. Boston, 38. Islip, 41. Toms River, 40. Vineland, 40. I mean, really, it comes in Friday, and by Sunday afternoon, it's going to be above freezing.
And look at look at the pressure gradient with this. This is my God. They may be issuing wind chill warnings, not advisories for this. I mean, that's a tight gradient that's coming in for.
I'm going to bring this up here. So this is I have to go back to the 0Z run because the 6Z only goes out to 90 hours. Now you'll notice, by the way, there are these waves. Now, this map does not show snow. This is precip. Okay. But here we go. So you see tonight's stuff, what goes to the north, the rest stays to the south. Then you get a wave that goes off the Carolina coast. That goes out. It turns a little colder as we move into Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I think at least back to seasonal. Then we've got another wave that comes out of the Gulf states and moves east, and that passes by to the south. There's yet another wave that's on Wednesday, Tuesday night, Wednesday. There's yet another wave on Thursday. The European actually brings precip to Cape May for 5 seconds, and then that low goes out underneath. And yeah, I mean, you wind up with probably some kind of deepening low that's way out, but the gradient is so tight because you got a 42 high in southern Minnesota, and at least I can look at it on the Atlantic map here. Oh my God, we're talking about winter weather. I don't know what to do with myself. There is a, oh good Lord, they have to, it's a 970, looks like a 970 something low that's southeast of Newfoundland. Yeah, and the gradient gets even tighter. It's even tighter in eastern New England. Yeah, but Joe, look at the high, but look where your air is coming from. I mean, it's coming from Greenland on south. That cold may actually probably bleed down fairly far south. Not the bitter cold, but some of that cold air, certainly the low-level cold air, is certainly going to get to me here. I just
I'm
wish
looking
we had a deep trough in the east because this way I could get some snow out of this again.
at 12Z on Saturday morning. Next Saturday at 7. Now, who would be calling me at this early
Well, it
hour of
could
the
be
morning?
Joe. It could be Dr. Bombay.
Uh, that's my daughter-in-law.
Oh,
So there, we're going to just turn that off.
okay.
And come on, give me that. All right. The thickness as of 7 a.m. on Saturday morning in New York City, as best as I can tell, the thickness is 490.
Wow.
490.
Now,
I mean, like, this is incredible.
It is. And by the way, everybody's getting. I know a few people have mentioned this. Is Izzy D hitting super chat. Thank you, Izzy. And you want me to look at the RGEM, which I have on the screen. Okay, because the RGEM is the regional Canadian model, and this is for Monday. Now you're seeing it into Tuesday morning, with this weather front just kind of gets by. Now, for some reason, the RGEM is amplifying a little bit. It's a little more amped, and it's got a wave that's coming out, and it shows all this blue, dark blue snow, Joe, in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Long Island, into southern New England, the southern half of New York State, and then that low goes out, and beyond that, it only goes out to 84 hours. So, but it does seem to want to amplify this first wave. I'll just tell you that, I mean, here's the GFS, the new GFS, which has this little patch of snow in southern Delaware and northern Virginia, and that's it. I just think that I don't know what the RGEM is seeing. Even the NAM is not bringing precip up. Okay, and the NAM was bringing precip up yesterday, and now it's gone. So I expected that to happen because the NAM has not really been good beyond 36 hours. But I don't know what the RGEM is looking at, that it's picking this up. But I would probably I'm not. I'm going to bet against. There isn't another mile, and the Canadian's doing it too, which you would expect if the RGEM's doing it, the GEM is doing it, and it is. It's got the snow there here on 72 on the 72 hour for Tuesday night into Wednesday. I mean, I know broken clocks are right twice a day, but it just seems a little bit far fetched to me. And even by the way, the Canadian, Joe, the Canadian thickness here, 28, 22, 16. I'm looking at Saturday morning, 40, 34, 28, 20. It's between 16 and 22. It's so
much milder.
Yeah, it's so much less colder, less cold, I should say, than I no. I'm gonna disagree with that assessment. Yeah, I'm seeing 498. What is that Saturday morning on the GFS? 54, 504, 498 at 1 a.m. And then it's up to 510 already by the time we get to 7 a.m. But yeah, at a 50 high, a 1050 high east of Lake Huron. The ultimate slap in the face. I'm telling you, Joe. All this bitter cold air comes down. It's one shot. It's in and out in a day, and you're going to warm up in rain. And that's exactly what I'm looking at here. Going beyond that, the cold air pulls out almost as fast as it comes in, and then you're left with just marginal cold air into early next week. There's some kind of low in the Bahamas, which is only out to 222 hours. I just this sucks. I mean, I hate to use that word, but it does.
The only good part about the lack of any snow, and of course this January is either going to tie or break the record for the warmest January at Central Park on record. The ticks. Now I live in a rather forested area, and I know that the ticks just love where I live out there. When I had a dog, I used to check for ticks regularly. But the one thing the ticks love also in the winter is snow, because they use that as an insulator against periods of cold weather. When it gets cold, they actually bury themselves into the snow to help insulate themselves against the. But if there's no snow, and let me say there probably will not be any snow on the ground. We just mentioned that earlier with this frigid blast that's coming in Friday and Saturday. There's no snow. The temperatures get this cold. The ticks are going to be in trouble. They are going to be in real big trouble in trying to stay warm. And this could be great. This could wipe out. I'm not going to say the entire tick population, but this could reduce the tick population very quickly in and around areas that have them, because it's freezing cold, and there's nothing for them to guard against when that frigidity comes in. So I'm groping now at straws, looking for something good to say about all this, and the lack of any snow. That's the only thing I could say that's good. But the question is also, when this big surge of cold weather comes roaring in, not usually, but sometimes you actually have kind of a trough, or you sometimes have a front with a narrow band of snow and snow showers. I'm wondering whether or not, well, it's not picking up on it now, but I'm wondering.
I'm looking at the upper air. I got the upper air on the screen. I mean, the problem here is that you got, there's a cutoff. This deep vortex is dropping down toward Hudson Bay. It looks like, well, I mean, maybe on Friday, Joe, it's like there's no definition. There's not I'm not seeing any definition. You sometimes you pick up, there's like a little V inside that big, inside a deep trough like this. It's
right.
It's more of like a small bowl that just basically overwhelms everything. So, I would probably lean against the idea that there would be much of anything. It may just it may just turn colder, and that's it, with no announcement by the atmosphere. I just want to see again. Let me see the precept.
It rolls by like a bowling ball, if you will, just to the north of us. And sometimes you get I remember when we used to work with the LFM way back, one of the early model guidance models that. They would sometimes show like a circular or a concentric zone of very, very low thicknesses, and it would just roll right by you. And sometimes it would do it during the middle of the day. So you'd see the temperatures fall off from late morning all through the afternoon and on into the evening. And then as that little concentric ball of very cold air rolls by, the temperatures, let's say around midnight, start going up. Noticeably going up, because the core of the cold air has literally rolled on through. We might see something like that next Friday or Saturday when the very frigid air moves past. And you know what? If it's showing this now, like 6 days in advance, usually in some cases they only accentuate, they only increase or the values for certain things, and I would say it's not impossible that maybe by Wednesday or Thursday, what we're seeing now on the maps for cold weather is even colder, as the models grasp onto this.
Yeah.
What you said, Joe, about the fact that this flow is not just coming straight down from the north, which is always the coldest airflow for us in the New York area. But you said it was like aiming out of Greenland
Yeah, but
for this.
look back at the Atlantic map. Oh, look, we got something to talk about. Oh my God. Uh, yeah, look, this low. All right. First of all, just to go back to the question of when the cold air arrives, whether there's going to be something with it. In upstate New York, along the lakes, when the wind turns north, there's going to be the lake effect, and it looks like the trough, that the southern extent of any kind of shortwave that's swinging in with the arrival of the cold air probably brings squalls to central and northern New England. This low, Joe, gets into what is that? The Davis Strait.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Davis Strait there in
yeah,
between. Okay,
yeah.
Labrador. So on close to the Labrador side, very close to the Labrador side, it's a 955 low that the GFS has up there. And if you follow the isobar, I mean, just follow the isobars, the flow around that comes around from Greenland to north central Labrador and goes right down, through eastern New England. So, the go a little bit further west, you just kind of loop it up a little bit over the top. It's the same thing. I mean, you get this. We're getting a straight shot flow coming all the way up from northeastern Labrador and originating from Greenland and coming over the top of that low and coming all the way down. I mean,
Right.
it's very impressive. Okay, and of course there's some kind of low off the Florida coast, but the 540 thickness is down to near Myrtle Beach by this is by Saturday morning. I just want to see the European. Since the European is 5 to 7 degrees colder, I want to see what kind of thicknesses that European has.
And you agree with me also. I mean that gradient is incredibly
Oh yeah,
tight.
very
So
tight,
that
very
so
tight. So let's see what the European has to say. And while I'm moving this map, please don't mention names of other TV Mets on this channel. If they want, they could have channels of their own if they like, and they actually work on TV. So, and I really don't appreciate having their names, mentioned and what they're forecasting. It's not relevant to what we do, and frankly, I could care less. I don't even know who half those people on the air are anymore anyway. So, thank you. I've gotten my little rant in. Yeah. So the European has I mean, it's the same, Joe. It's got a 61 low where the GFS has got a 55. And then, it's a 937. Oh my God, it gets to a 937 low by Saturday afternoon. No wonder the European is as cold as it is. And by the way, talk about a tight pressure gradient. I don't know if you can see the map in front of you there. Take a look at the gradient that's in eastern Labrador. The isobars are so
yeah,
close. They're so close. I mean, that wind up there is going to be screeching,
right.
like sustained 50 to 60.
And you know what? As warm as it has been for much of the especially eastern part of North America, save for Christmas time, as warm and as and amazingly mild that January has been, all you need is something like this to color the idea of what this winter is all about. People are going to remember if this gets as cold as it is, or the end of the weekend, and then when people talk about the winter, let's say in May or June or whatever, yeah, well, yeah, that winter was really something. Remember when it got very cold, the wind, it felt
Right.
like it was 50 below out there.
Remember when it
Everything,
got remember when it got very cold before Christmas, and now they're going to say, remember how it got very cold right around right around just after Groundhog Day. So
right?
we'll have the groundhog come out on Thursday, right? On Thursday, he won't see his shadow, and and everybody will say, the whole thing will be, well, spring is just around the corner, quote unquote, and then we'll go down and see temperatures near zero by Saturday morning.
And then on Sunday or Monday they'll be on the internet, on social media. They have pictures of the groundhog with a hangman's noose, saying, "Where is that groundhog? He said we were going to have an early spring."
Right.
And you know, and honestly, I think that the people who are in charge of Groundhog Day at Puxatony, Pennsylvania now, I mean, they've got it all worked out already. They check with NOAA and they decide, oh well, it's been so mild so far, and it probably is going to continue, and they'll make their decision on that. Because there have been years when it's been bright and sunny. Oh, the groundhog didn't see a shadow. What? or it's hopelessly cloudy, even a little snowy. Oh, the groundhog saw a shadow today. So I don't really, there's some who try to play it by the books, but I think in Puxatawny they don't really do that anymore. But
Right. I'm just looking at the GFS beyond that. Another difference with the Europeans got another cold high coming down with another cold front. I mean, it's nothing like what's going to happen late next week if it's correct. It's much weaker. The GFS has got a weaker front with a weaker high coming down. Then there's something that goes to the lakes around February 7th or 8th, and that has some colder air behind it. But how much of that gets spent before it gets here, I don't know. But nothing like what's being shown for the end of next week. So,
and James Davidson declaring on the chat board, winter is officially over, since the weekend will be the very last short cold snap, followed by much warmer than normal temperatures after mid-February.
See, I hate, that bothers when people do that. That really bugs me. Seriously. Really, come on, James. Seriously? I mean, look, I'm not saying that you're wrong, but I mean, I don't know. It just bothers me. That's all. I guess maybe because I'm agitated over the lack of winter weather.
Why do I think? And of course, remember several years ago when Central Park had less than 5 inches of snow, and everybody said, "Oh, it's a horrible winter."
Oh,
and what happened?
Right.
And what happened in May? In May, the first time since 1977, there was snow sighted. Now, the thing is, why do I get this impression that after everybody has already given up on the winter, that come March or even early April, when we're all getting ready for the beginning of baseball, that all of a sudden we have another shot of cold air, and this time we have a storm coming, and we do get snow. And wouldn't it be funny, Joe, if the snow that we do get, let's say in March, and it's happened, folks, we've had some real big storms in March. Wouldn't it be funny if we made up for all the snow that we've so far not seen with one big storm in March? It could happen. So for those people who say winter's over, winter's done, whatever like that, well, it ain't over. As Yogi Berra said, it ain't over until it's over.
What you're going to need to happen is, if you want to look at what may happen next late next week and into the weekend, that's sort of like a tiny little window that opened up. Where you get this cold shot. So I guess, look, the overall pattern, and I will admit the overall pattern is crap. Okay, it just is. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a window where it does open up for about 3 or 4 days and something happens. Are the odds against that? Yeah, probably. The odds are probably very long. I just don't like, I guess the whole concept with the long range, when someone's coming on, and says, now you brought up March, James, you bring up March, about March is going to be hot. You use the word hot. Okay. I mean, really? So what's the point? What is the point of all of this? If we're going to sit here and pull out CPC forecasts and talk about the month of March and month of April and month of May, I mean, why even bother to look at day-to-day weather? I don't. I guess that's where I'm having a problem with this, because it's just sort of the implication is, well, the CPC map says it's going to be warmer than normal, so you know what? It's done. I don't know.
Well, we didn't see that. I mean, like a week ago.
I'm touchy today, Joe. I'm touchy.
A week or 10 days ago, we didn't see this coming for next weekend, this batch of exceedingly frigid air. And it would be so ironic if indeed it turned out to be some of the coldest air we've seen around here in more than 5 or 6 or 7 years. And it's coming in a year where we're not seeing any snow. Yeah, but don't give up on the snow either, because something can happen in March. And you and I remember April of 1982, where we had blizzard conditions on the first day of the baseball season, April the 6th.
Right.
So it can happen.
It can happen. Looking at the 500, one of the big problem is you actually, when you look at the 500 on Wednesday, you see what's going on in Canada. It's you got a vortex in the Hudson Bay. You've got sort of expanding and lowering of heights all over the place in eastern and in western Canada. And the trough just sort of swings around and comes in across southeastern Canada and into New England, gets very deep, they get that cold air, really amplified cold airflow from northeastern Canada on southward. But that upper low lifts out. As fast as it moves in is as quick as it lifts out. And you've got some ridging in the east. You still have some, it's just not. You still have at least some leftover signs of some vortex over Hudson Bay over time. The West is not terrible. There's actually the West is about as good as it's been for weeks now. The West is not showing a fire hose. I can sort of see how this could maybe evolve into a better pattern. But every time we look at the long range, Joe, it's always 10 to 16 days down the road, and it never gets it never gets there. It never gets inside that 10-day time frame. It's just that it's on day 14, it's on day 15, it's on day 12. So I'm not going to hold out too much hope that this is just a one and done type of thing. Um, I mean, this is good. That it is going to be a one and done type of thing, and then it's back to this sort of ho hum drab pattern that we're in.
Yeah, that just about sums up your thoughts as well as my thoughts about this whole thing. We just have to, and that's why I'm not throwing in the towel. That's why. So for all of you who have already given up on winter, very good. Thank you very much. It's not going to wave the white flag just yet.
All right, we got a couple of super chat hits here, so let me just see. Waiting. Okay, Ken Musillo hitting super chat. Thank you, Ken. Brandon Doherty hitting super chat, joining Izzy D, who hit super chat earlier. So thank you all very much for doing that. So you know what? There's 2 football games later today. Let's just focus on that, and now we can call an end to this Sunday show. Okay. No show tomorrow. Again, okay, folks, no show tomorrow. We'll be back on Tuesday at 7:35 Eastern time.
By the way, if you, I sent you to your email the link for the Pearl River Library Talk. So if any of you out there would like to join in tomorrow,
I'm getting it right now, and I will put it up.
Actually, it's not the link to it's the link announcing the library talk. But if you respond to Pearl River, they will send you the Zoom link for tomorrow night's presentation. So,
okay, Leon Probitsky, thank you for hitting super chat while I get the library link.
I like the smiling fox too, Leon.
Hold on a second. Joe Rayo's library talk info. Link posted. And now let me pin it to the top of the page.
Pin it, Joe. Pin it.
It's pinned. It's pinned to the top of the page, folks. So, and Jason Kaplan hitting super chat. Thank you, Jason. Most appreciated. So I'm making lamb chops for dinner tonight. And I'm happy now that the electricity's back, I can actually use my stove. So lamb chops for dinner with maybe some potatoes. How does that sound to you?
Sounds delicioso. I'm trying to see how I can get this thing with Frank Field on.
Oh, okay.
So that you can,
you did mention that.
So we could see that. If I, unfortunately, the minute I bring it up, it starts, and I don't want that to happen. Come on.
Is it a video, Joe?
Yeah, it is. It is a video.
It's a video?
Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Yeah, I'm to do this, I have to.
All right, I'm going to get out of the way here.
I have to take off my headphones because I can't play it. I got to play it. Let me see here. Dum 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 dum. Can all of you see that? Can they see that, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my headphones off and I'm going to play this off of my regular computer speakers. The only way you can hear the video, hear the audio to this. Hang on.
Hopefully this isn't copyrighted.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound like you're in a tunnel, but that's fine.
All right, but it's just temporary. All right, so here, this is I dug this up, and this is Johnny Carson when Frank Field and he were having this little, playful little feud back in the 1960s or whatever, on Channel 4, WNBC here in New York. Let me try to start this off here.
On in that reign, Johnny had some favorite moments with one of our favorite stars. You're welcome, Dr. Frank Field. Back in the 60s, when Johnny was taping all his programs in Rockefeller Center, I guess one of his writers, comic writers, thought it'd be fun to take a pop at the weatherman, and I was a perfect subject. And that was the beginning of a beautiful and very public friendship. Dr. Field recently received an honor, for his predictions that were 90% accurate, 6% of the time. I didn't know how to get back at it because NBC was very conservative. You did not dare fool around with local or network news in those days. So what I did was, I took all pictures of John's that were rejects, I cut the head out, I pasted them on other pictures, and I would bring them on the air with a very straight face. And each night I would get back at him. And he just kept on picking up NBC's crack meteorologist. The fun-loving feud would continue for years. Frank, with his deadpan delivery, taking pot shots at Johnny during his evening weather segments. And Johnny, who would turn the other cheek and invite Frank on The Tonight Show, no matter what the weather was. 14 days of solid rain. It's been sunny all over. Carson pretty much took the cake one night when he snuck up on Frank during a live weather segment. I was terrified. I was as rigid, and my voice went up several octaves. And I said, what is he going to do? We're live on the air, and I'm already in trouble with the news department that here he is on the 11 o'clock news. And nobody could help me. I was alone, and Carson, of course, the next day he was very nice. He apologized. He went on the national network to describe what he had done to me, and that kept me out of trouble because he admitted that he had done it. All of Johnny's...
By the way, Johnny Carson was still doing his show in New York because when I freelanced at WNBC, it was in the original Carson studio. So in fact, they still had the tape on the floor where where his desk would be. So that's why Carson was there, was able to go on because he was in the studio on a couple of floors down. I don't know where they were doing the newscast from, but I want to say the Carson studio was on the 6th floor. I don't remember, but it was pretty cool though. The idea that the weather set was just right where the old Carson, right near the old Carson's, the old Carson set markings were. So,
that was great that they had that little banter back and forth. And I remember also, that when Carson would, and let me get back on my headphones here. That sounds a little better probably.
By the way, while you're getting your headphones on, thank you from the chairman, Scott Briller, hitting super chat. And he says, to ask the question, how many times has Central Park been below zero since 1970? So I'm going to say 1, 2, I'm going to say 3 times. Okay, that's my guess. I was trying to remember off the top of my head, but I'm thinking 3.
And there you go.
And there you go. So, let's see. I'm just trying to read what's on the board. Mike 76 talks about the Moon River
Tush Mooney
doll skit in the 1980s was hilarious. I have no idea what that was.
I don't either.
Yeah, no. At least with respect to what was you just showed, that's fun. That's fun stuff. I don't really take any. I don't get anything negative.
No, it's like, I mean, they weren't.
They worked the
angry.
room well. Let's put it that way. They both benefited from this in a big way.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. In fact, Frank Field says he never would have gotten the notoriety had it not been for Carson. Nobody knew outside of New York who Dr. Frank Field was.
Right.
And during the Gemini and Apollo moon or space missions, Frank Field was sometimes called on the national network, NBC National, to do the weather for where they were going to splash down in the ocean, and he was, I think he was among the very first to show satellite pictures on television during something that we take for granted all the time now, but something that back then was something brand new.
And just a wonderful man, by the way. Very kind. He was very kind to me. Took the time out to look at some of my early work. Unlike some gas bag on another station, which shall go unmentioned, who never showed me a single not one single act of kindness ever. And
our mutual friend Tom Grant at the National Weather Service.
Yes, God bless him.
When I mentioned Frank to him, he said one of the loveliest, nicest men that you will ever meet in your life. And then I mentioned the other person who you were making reference to, and Tom made a face like,
Yes,
he was not well liked among those in the meteorological. We're not going to say who that was.
No, we're not going to say who that was. But
and Frank's turning 100.
I'm just going to leave it there. Days will be 100.
Frank is the Betty White of legendary on-camera meteorologists. He will be turning 100. I don't know the exact date in March, but next month he will be turning. No, not next month. Next month is February. In March, a couple of months, he's going to be turning a century, and all the best to him.
And Howard Hassel hitting super chat. Thank you, Howard. And on that note, let's say goodbye because it's coming up on the noontime hour. I'm getting hungry. All right, so no show, no show tomorrow. We'll see everybody on Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, folks.